I went from doom scrolling for 7 and more hours straight to never touching the apps again and feeling better than ever before. I can help you do the same. So who am I? My name is Marco. Like I said, I went from being a total scrolling addict to never touching the apps in more than a year. More than a year ago, I was terrible at school. I was on the brink of failing my semester. I wasn't productive at all. I wasn't able to focus or study at all. My social life was very mediocre. And I felt anxious, depressed, and I just felt terrible about myself. But then, luckily, I stopped using the apps. I was finally able to stop scrolling and overcoming my pains. I developed better mental health and stopped being anxious and started being productive. My attention span rise, and I was finally the guy who was productive, who could work for hours straight. Okay, today we talk about the dangers of your phone and scrolling. I want to talk about two things: physical dangers and mental dangers. First, the physical dangers. The health issues with being or spending excessive amount of time on your phone, and in particular scrolling or short form content usage, is nausea, headache, neck and shoulder pain, and stress. That's just some facts from Harvard Health Publishing. Of course, there are more health issues, but those are just the first few. One major health issue is your sleep. I'm guaranteed, I'm certain that your sleep is very poor if you are addicted to your phone and scrolling. If not, then of course that's a different story. But right now, if you're watching this video and you have bad attention, you're scrolling excessive amount of times, your sleep is bad. The reason, there are a few reasons. First of all, the blue light. Before going to sleep and you are on your phone, the blue light will disturb something in your brain and you won't fall asleep as easy. Then of course, there's overstimulation. What I mean by that is, if you're scrolling and watching TikToks before going to bed, you can't expect to fall asleep right then and there, because your mind is like fully clustered with information and it was overstimulated right like 5 minutes before going to bed, and you expect to fall asleep right and then and there. So no wonders you can't fall asleep. Then the last thing is, I mean, we've all had that experience. You say to yourself, oh, only a few minutes and then I go to bed. You wanted to go to bed at like 10 and then you picked up your phone and watched either a series or TikTok and then it's bam, 12. Your overusage of your phone and scrolling just ruined your sleep. I mean, you wanted to go to bed at 10 and now it's 12. So you get less sleep. Less sleep, first of all, worsens your mood. You're less productive, less focused, and the likelihood of accidents are so much higher. So the the ROI, the return on investment on scrolling instead of going to bed, it isn't worth it. So instead of scrolling before going to bed, do something else. Another health issue is you will lose out in real life. What I mean by that is, on average, we spend 6 hours and 40 minutes per day on our phone. 6 hours and 40 minutes is 91 days a year. 90 fucking days. Or 91 fucking days a year. Do you know how much time and how much stuff you could do in those time? You could learn a new language. You could develop new friendships, study something, become almost an expert in something. But we waste our time with being so long on our phone. I've read a book. It's called Irresistible. There's this diagram on how long the people in, I think, 2015 spent an average on their phone. It was around 1 to 2 hours. Nowadays, it's 6 hours and 40 minutes. For teenagers, or for 18 years to, I think, 24-year-olds, it's even higher. It's around 8 hours. 8 fucking hours a day. That's insane. And it isn't like we spend 6 hours with work time and studying on our phone. No. Most of it is just entertainment. I mean, every second you scroll or be on your phone, every screen time is a lost second. You could have made lasting memory, or I don't know, go on an adventure. But no, with our excessive screen time, we also lose the ability to communicate. I mean, no wonders if we have 6 hours and 40 minutes of screen time and we just text with each other, we don't need to communicate anymore. We've become socially awkward. And that's terrible. I mean, if you go everywhere, you need to be able to communicate. But with excessive amounts on scrolling and being on your phone, you lose that ability to speak, to communicate. You become the guy who in the restaurant is shy and timid and asks the waitress, you become a bitch. You've become, socially awkward. And with that, being socially awkward, your relationships and being able to have good relationships plummets. You won't be able to connect as much with friends and family because how? You don't know how to speak. Also, there is this study where there was couples who had phones and couples who didn't use phones. The couples who didn't use their phone had better relationships. They communicated better with each other. They were overall happier than the couple who used their phone. Also, another study I read is there were some strangers meet each other, right? And they have to talk about a topic. One half of a group had their phone with them and one wasn't allowed to. The ones who had their phone with them said, they connected a bit, but they had overall a more bad experience. The ones who hadn't their phone with them said they developed more of a connections with the other person they never met and had more of a deep talk. You see, being on your phone and having so much screen time is detrimental for your relationships. Excessive scrolling and being on the phone reduces your focus. I mean, we've all heard that studied or that our attention span is decreasing and we have a worse attention span than a goldfish. And of course that's because of overusage of phone and overusage of short form content. The last thing about the physical dangers is our hippocampus. It's in our brain where short-term memories become into long-term memories. The hippocampus is reduced with overusage of phone and scrolling. And this is very bad. This means we lose our ability, or it worsens our ability to have long-lasting memories that we can remember and think back of with a fond and happy smile in our face. So let's talk about mental dangers. First, I want to talk about multitasking. And now you're wondering, multitasking, mental dangers? Wait a minute, wait. Multitasking basically let me ask you this. Have you ever watched TV and you were on your phone at the same time? You scroll TikTok or Insta or texted a friend. That's multitasking. Or have you ever checked your phone while you had a conversation? I mean, you were blah 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 on your phone and the other person talked to you, but you only listened like half of the time because you were occupied with your phone and listening to the other person. The thing is, multitasking is a myth. Only about 2% of all people can really do multitasking at an efficient level. For the rest of us, it's not productive. We are not saving time, because if you're watching a movie and also scrolling, you first of all don't respect your time and you don't save time. You're just making stuff worse, because if you're doing multitasking, our ability to have deep and complex thoughts decreases and our cognitive functions get also worse. So let's talk about our cognitive functions. Excessive scrolling and the use of and the overusage of our phone, of course, it harms our cognitive functions. We already established that our speaking ability is suffering from those bad habits. But also, like I said, our focus and our memories. Our memory is decreasing and we can't, or we have less long-lasting memories. Also, our ability to remember things decreases because we don't have to use our mind anymore. We don't have to remember stuff anymore because we can only put it in our phone. I mean, we don't need it for math anymore because we have a calculator in our phone. We don't need it to remember phone numbers because we have contacts in our phone. And we don't need to remember maps or locations because we have Google Maps on our phone. We lose our our mind in a way, or our mind and the ability to think decreases. And if you want to know more about mind and mindset, there's a full course link in the description. With our decrease in thinking, we become dumber in a way. I mean, there was a study I read that more screen time equals to less intelligent. And in a sense, I get it why. If you have more screen time, your cognitive function decreases. You're more socially awkward. You are less productive. You're less focused. And how can you be more intelligent if you lack those things, comparison to a person who don't use their phone as often and has good social skills, is productive and focused? Also, one thing I think is a part of this is, if you have lots of screen time, you don't fucking read. I mean, the ability, if you have so much, if you are overwhelmed with stuff, you don't grab a book and read. And that's detrimental for you. Reading is very good for your focus, learning new words, and also learning in general, because reading is good for you. So please try to reduce your screen time and become a bit smarter. And an interesting thought I just had. Do you know Pavlov's dogs? I think it's an experiment where the scientists found out or noticed that whenever he feeds the dogs, they produce lots of saliva. So he tested something. He took a metronome and played it every time he feeds the dogs. And over time, the dogs get used to the metronome and feeding at the same time. So one day, he takes away the food and only plays the metronome. And the interesting part is, the dogs started to produce saliva, the same as they would if they saw the food. So they've been conditioned. And I think we've also been conditioned by our phone. I mean, if you heard this notification sound, don't you want to instantly grab your phone and see if something important or valuable, or yeah, if someone important texted you? Isn't that kind of conditioning? Have you ever been longer on your phone than you meant to be? Have you ever want to stop, for example, scrolling, but then didn't manage to? Have you ever, like harmed, or where you haven't not able to work or study because of your phone? If so, you are probably addicted to your phone, according to the DSM-5. But why exactly are we addicted to our phone? First, I think one thing is, we don't want to miss out. We don't want to miss the next trendy meme, the next interesting series, so we could talk about with people. We can talk about this series or that meme, so we don't kind of lose out on those interactions. Another thing is the sneaky rewards of those apps. I mean, the pull to refresh, doesn't it remind you of a casino on a slot machine where you also can pull to refresh? Or the infinite scroll and the autoplay to keep you hooked forever. I mean, those apps, they hired hundreds, when not even thousands of people with PhD just to have one job, to have you hooked on those fucking phone or on the apps. I mean, we've all heard about dopamine, and they've made it perfect to be addictive. What I mean by that is, you probably know what dopamine is. Dopamine isn't released with pleasure. Dopamine is released when we pursue pleasure, right? It's back in our days when we were cavemen, or around that time, and we used it for hunting. It was released while we hunted. And the reason is, when we didn't catch the prey, we still had the dopamine release, so we would pursue to try to hunt another prey. This way we had food and we would survive. The same thing applies to our modern day. Although we don't need to hunt anymore, we are hunting for funny videos on the apps. I mean, on TikTok, every scroll is basically a little hunt for the next funny videos, because it could be the one video who is funnier, better than every other video before. And this makes it so fucking addictive. This makes those apps so dangerous, because they are made that we are basically vulnerable to them. They use everything in their power to make us addicted to them. The good thing is, we can stop it. We can fix it. We can stop scrolling. We can reduce our screen time, and we can reduce those dangers that come with it. If you want a full guide how to stop scrolling, click the link in the description. For a short answer, it is, you need to change your mindset. What I mean by that is, your mind isn't always on your side. It convinces you to be addicted to scrolling. I mean, I don't know, have you ever heard of the placebo effect? It's, if you, for example, are sick, you go to a doctor and he gives you a sugar pill. It doesn't have any medicine in it, so you take it. But because you believe it will help you or cure you, you will get cured. But it didn't have any medicine in it. All because of your mind. But the opposite is also true. If he gives you a pill, but it tells you about all the bad, the downside, because he says you could develop headache, stomach ache, and fever, you take the pill and you develop all those things. But the pill hadn't any medicine in it, and it was all because of your mind. Your mind and your mindset could be your best ally. Like I said, it could cure you, or your worst enemy, it could harm you. And the same thing applies with scrolling and being addicted to scrolling. Your current mindset is harming you. So you need to switch the mindset and have a new one. A little example. It could be that you start, whenever you scroll and you realize you scroll, you could say to yourself, I'm better than this, and stop using the app. This is just a little mindset switch, but it could help a lot. Then, if you have a mindset switch, you need to actually stop the usage of scrolling. And there are two ways. First, there's an extreme way. This would be either throw your phone away or a detox. This way I would recommend, because it's the most efficient way, and the chances that you will succeed are much higher. However, there is some kind of friction, because throwing your phone away is very extreme, and also a detox could be very extreme. So I understand if you don't want to do this, but I would recommend. If you want a more calm, slower, and maybe not so efficient way, this could be by first be more deliberate about your usage. You could download the app, so every time you want to open the app, it reminds you to want to open the app, and you click yes or no. This way you'll be more deliberate about your usage. I think an app that does that is ScreenSend, but I'm not entirely sure. Then, of course, you can set timers for your apps, like TikTok 50 minutes, and then the app closes. This way you have more free time and you're more reminded that you should stop. Then, of course, you could delete the apps, and maybe you could quit it, but if you're being honest, you will probably download them again and then quit it again, and maybe. So, like I said, I would recommend the more extreme version, like detox for days and then come back. Then after you've stopped using the apps, then it's time to use your free time now. This is by developing new habits, finding something purposeful in life, and doing stuff that you actually enjoy instead of wasting time. So the conclusion: scrolling and overusage of your phone is bad. It's not just bad, it's detrimental for your health, for your life, for everything. It has negative effects on your mental and physical health. But with hard work, you can fix it. And I believe in you that you could fix it. Just need to do the hard work. Because I'm telling you right now, the benefits, first of all, not scrolling and not using short form content is huge. I don't think you really can imagine the scope, because not just you have better attention span, that's just a tiny bit, it's the tip of the iceberg, but your productivity, your social skills, your relationships, your work and study, it feels better. You can be more productive, and and your mental health and your life in general just feels so much better. Really, just please do it. Do it for yourself, and I will guarantee you will never regret it. You will never regret that you stopped scrolling, because it's one of the worst and the addictive things in our modern age. So on that note, have a great day. Stop scrolling, please. And I see you in the next one. Goodbye.